Okay, hi guys, this is Leo here, CEO and founder of Leo Lee Education, and in today's video I have here with me Mr. Darren. He's the acting general manager of Engineering Australia in Tasmania, and today he will come in and give you guys some of the tips, some of the strategies you can use so that if you are an engineering graduates and if you're struggling to find jobs today, you can take on some of his approach, some of his suggestion to successfully find jobs in this very difficult time. But thank you for doing this, Darren.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Leo.
Thank you. So, Darren, as you might know, it's a very tough time for a lot of engineering graduates. Many of them have tried different approach to find jobs. What would you say are some of the mistakes you think you have seen they commit to that results to they do not have a jobs?
One of the main mistakes that I see is the bulk approach to it.
Okay.
So there's no personalization to it. We tend to find that people go straight for the "have you got a job" approach.
Okay.
Yeah, which is employers don't really like to see that.
Okay.
Personalizing it is a lot more successful. So researching the company, researching a little bit about what they're doing, and if you are putting in a formal application, make sure you tailor it to the actual job ad itself, as opposed to your standard cover letter that you might have written up.
Yes. So you mean, let's say when they apply for a job, on the cover letter, they must probably do a bit of research about that specific company and mention something that specifically catering to that company, right?
Exactly. So maybe it's look at the company values, which you can find on their website. Make sure you address some of the selection criteria or some of the experience that they're looking for. Make sure that's clearly addressed in your cover letter as well.
Got you. And do you think it's important for them to know who's the owner, who's the employer, who's the manager? Like, do you think it's important to know that the name of the person?
Most definitely. If it gets to a stage where you're having a conversation with somebody about it, definitely use names. So use the name of the interviewer. Refer to the name of the owner when you're talking about the company as well, because it actually shows you've done a little bit of research. And you just haven't walked in expecting to get a job.
Which is a lot of have been trying that, and it usually doesn't turn out well.
No, that's correct. You know, the employers want to see that you've done a bit of hard work and you're not just walking in there with your hand out. Got you.
So, and where do you think they can find the details of these employees? All on the website? Is everything
all on the website? You know, LinkedIn is another really, really great tool. LinkedIn, follow the companies that you're looking to apply for. So follow them on LinkedIn, and quite often they have photos and stories about projects and things that they're working on. So you can actually talk about current projects that they're doing. Whether they won an award for something or whether they're doing something really innovative. And you can actually do a little bit of research on that and use that as part of your conversation as well.
Because I think I mentioned that to you before. Like a lot of these graduates, they are very new. You know, a lot of them, they don't have experience. Do you think that could be one of the main burden or main reason that employer don't want to take them on board, or?
Well, at the moment, it's definitely a workforce issue and an employment issue, given that we're not quite sure, how things are going to be in 6 months. Is there going to be more work? So employers are taking a very conservative approach to hiring practices at the moment. So yes, it's tough, but just stick at it and continue doing it, and don't expect that the employer should be giving you a job, because there are other applicants out there that have probably got the same qualifications as you.
Too many.
So you've all got the same qualifications. You can all supposedly do the same thing.
Yes.
It's the other things that they'll be looking for to set.
So what do you think would be that? Because you just said a very good point. A lot of them are very similar. Like a lot of applicants, same degree, same school. So what is that one different thing that the applicant can make themselves stand out from the rest?
So one of the things that I hear from employers is the grades are good. It's great that you've gone and done your degree and that you've passed, but they really don't care quite as much about the grades anymore.
Wow.
What they're looking for is a fit for the company.
Okay.
So do you have the right personality to fit in with the team? Are you a proactive self-starter type of person that is going to go out and seek knowledge and ask questions and look at doing things better ways. I said they want to know that you've passed your course, but
of course you need to pass it.
once they know that, it's everything else that they're looking for. You know, do you have the similar values to the organisation? You know, are you going to be that team fit and that team player?
True.
Can they communicate well?
That's very important.
That is very important for an engineer. You need to be able to communicate the problem and the solution because you're working with a wide variety of stakeholders all the time. So communication is a big key.
Because that is because that could be a problem because as I mentioned to you, a lot of my students, they are like from Indian background, some are from Nepalese and different backgrounds, and sometimes their English is not as good. So what would you suggest them to do if that's the case?
There's probably a difference between having good English and being a good communicator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so good English is one thing, but even if your English isn't quite as good as others, you can still be a good communicator.
Oh,
make sure you get your point. Make sure you're getting your point across.
Yes.
You're actively listening to people.
Mm.
Yeah, you're asking questions when you need to ask questions. You know.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a subtle difference between having good English and being a good communicator.
Which is good news for the migrants to hear this because
exactly.
A lot of them they thought that they must have very good English to be good at communicating. I think it's just a very small factor that, of course, like you said, they need to learn how to listen, how to ask when it's the right time to ask.
Yes.
Great. And so in terms of number of jobs out there, because we have different types of engineer, we have civil, structural, mechanical. In Tasmania, which engineer do you think that have the most number of jobs in at the moment? Or?
So at the moment it'd be civil. It'd definitely be civil. Civil's been quite strong in Tasmania probably over the last few years, and that's where you'll see the most vacancies. That's going to be driven even harder over the next 5 to 10 years with our 10-year infrastructure policy and plan that has come out.
Okay.
That'll be a lot of state road projects. There's Battery of the Nation. So even Battery of the Nation, big renewable energy project, a lot of the work that's going to be created from that will be civil works.
Wow.
You still need roads to get into the power stations. You still need footings built for wind farms. You know, that's a lot of civil construction work.
Yes.
But there's still associated disciplines that'll be feeding that as well. So you still need, you know, electronics and electrical engineers to build the automation systems, and mechanical engineers to do work on the turbines and things like that. So,
because one of the concerns that I hear from this engineering, this graduate is they're afraid that the job can be outsourced to someone else. But do you see that that's the problem in Tasmania? Or they really need someone to be here, outsource the work to some other companies.
It could be a bit of both. At the moment, it's really hard to be bringing workers in from the mainland. So we need to kind of build our workforce locally, and it's a really good opportunity for us to focus on local jobs and building capacity and capability with our local workforce.
And not dependent on some other places.
Exactly. You know, as long as we've got the workforce to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. And look, government has shifted their thinking a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and I think they're asking questions a little bit more, you know, with the specialised workers coming into the state. Do we have the specialised workers here already? So
wow, yes, because when I speak with these graduates, another thing that really set them back is that they don't think they can compete with the locals. Graduates who were born and bred and raised here in Tasmania because of several reasons. But do you see that as a disadvantage, or do you see that as maybe a reason for them to try harder?
I could see it as a shifting your way of thinking and turning it into an advantage. So bringing world experience with you, a different way of thinking, a different way of doing things. Because a diverse workforce is going to create better engineering solutions because there's different ways of thinking. Sure. Yeah. So I think it's just shifting the mindset of thinking I'm disadvantaged, shifting it to how can I turn my overseas experience into an advantage.
Wow, I mean that's something they probably never thought of.
Yeah.
They always think that because the local they speak better English, they were born here. Of course, they know more people over here, better network.
Yeah.
So, but I always tell them that at the end of the day, it's about, like you say. There's a saying that I live by. It's called, the obstacle is the way. So sometimes when you have challenges, you might use it to move forward,
Exactly,
rather than
yeah.
set you back. Yeah. So what are the problems you think these migrants graduates might face with at the moment, and how do you suggest them to solve it in regards to finding jobs? Is there any problems you see?
Well, like anybody that's new to an area, whether you'd be from Hobart and you've moved to Launceston, you may not know anybody in Launceston. It's similar for overseas-born engineers coming to Tasmania and into Australia. So the problems are still the same. You're moving to a new area, you don't know anybody.
Yes.
So my advice is build your professional network.
Yes.
So do that locally through connecting with, say, Engineers Australia as the professional body.
Yes.
And you can meet like-minded people. So coming to any of our events, site tours, technical sessions, networking breakfasts, and just meeting people and telling them, say, hi, I'm Leo. This is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. How about you tell me a little bit about what you do and what you're passionate about?
Wow.
So you're actually building your professional network.
Yes.
Using LinkedIn as well. I'm a big advocate for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So using that to build your professional network.
Yes.
You'll hear about local engineering trends. Quite often you'll see jobs advertised on LinkedIn as well. It's a really good way to keep your finger on the pulse as to what's happening locally.
Yeah. So if they want to be a part of that networking of the Engineering Australia, so where can they find these opportunities?
So for our members, we send out a weekly email which lists all the events that we've got coming up, both via webinar and when we get back to some face-to-face activity, live and local as well. So that'll be
right here in Hobart too.
Right here in Hobart too, and in the regions in the north and the northwest of the state.
Oh, great.
Those that aren't members yet can find these details on our website, so engineersaustralia.org.au.
Sure.
And they can also find details for membership there too.
Yes. And how often you have an event? Is it depends or is it...
It depends. I'll use last year as an example because last year everything was a little bit more normal than what it is now.
A good year.
Last year was a good year. 2019 was fantastic. Look, we ran, I think it was 50 odd events over the year, so roughly about one a week. Some larger scale events, some very small, some virtual. We even did a lot of events in the regions. So up on the northwest coast in Burnie and Devonport, we were doing networking breakfasts and site tours up there. Same in Launceston. Yes. And then some events here at our office as well. So there's always something happening. And for example, just our webinar content, going and seeking that information about what are the engineering projects, challenges and solutions in Australia. For example, our CPD online calendar, last month in June, we had 56 webinars.
So who's the one who convey that webinar or deliver that webinar? Who's the one who deliver that?
Oh, look, it could be any of us. We've got offices all around the country.
Yes.
And a large team of people. Hobart's only a small office. There's only a couple of us here. But we've got 300 staff.
Across the nation.
Across the nation. So some of those work in the event space, so building that CPD calendar. And we're using our industry connections to come in and talk about their projects or talk about their innovative engineering solutions.
Yeah, and they can also get to talk with the employers as well, right? Will the employer join this sort of webinars too? Or?
It depends. They could be the employee, they could be the employer. It depends on what level they're at. But quite often at our live face-to-face events, we've got a good spread from student engineers studying at university to our senior engineering leaders who are CEOs and general managers of their companies.
Wow. That's good. And which bring me down to probably the last 2 points. As you said, LinkedIn is a very powerful platform to networking. And some of my students, they have tried that. The problem they met is when they send the message to connect with these people, usually they don't hear back from these engineers. So what would you suggest them to write in that message or in that, you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what
they
you
don't
mean,
reply
'cause
a lot of time.
I get a lot of LinkedIn requests as well, and some of them just say, "Hello, Darren," and I look at it and go, "Okay, well, how am I going to respond to this apart from go hello?" And then you go back and forwards a little bit, and that all takes time. So engineers are very busy.
I can imagine.
They've got a lot on their plate. So if you want to connect with somebody, personalize it.
Personalize.
Look at the jobs that they're doing and say, look, I see you're an electrical engineer. You work with Hydro Tasmania. This is the battery of the nation. Could you tell me something about that project? Or I'd love to catch up and hear a little bit about what you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very so tries to have some common points. Try to find some common grounds, isn't it?
Exactly. That personalization will definitely get a better response than the copy and paste hi on such and such and then leaving it at that. Yeah, you can see that the person that sent you that connection request has actually gone through a little bit of effort. So you're more likely to respond to somebody that's gone through the effort as opposed to somebody that may not have gone through the effort apart from hitting connect or send.
Yes. So you say that LinkedIn is good. Of course, the Engineering Australia networking event also very good. Is there any other ways that they can get to know these people in the industry? Is there any other platform, or there's from the two platforms?
Not necessarily the industry, but another suggestion I give: just volunteer with local groups.
Volunteer. Okay.
Yeah, meet other people outside of the engineering profession as well.
Wow.
Build your network that way. Go and help out. With a local charity or something like that.
Because you never know who you're going to come across.
That is exactly right. You never know what's around the corner, and the person that you're speaking to, volunteering for one of these things, could be an engineer. They could be an employer. And you have an opportunity to talk to them and tell them a little bit about who you are and what you want to do and why.
Wow.
Is a great way to start.
And I believe you must be such a good networker yourself to be who you are today. You must have done it very well. I can believe it.
Networking is something that comes naturally to very few people. I'm probably not one of them. It's definitely a skill that you need to work on.
Okay, so you have to learn and you have to put a lot extra effort in it.
Yes, it's a skill that's learned. It is natural to a select group of people that just seem to have that ability to walk in a room and connect with people naturally. But others, like myself, we need to work on those skills and listening and connecting and giving other people the time as well and asking the right questions. Yeah,
because a lot of my students, they're from Asia background, as you know. I mean, a bit biased to say, but it's generally quite true, is we tend to be quite introvert. So it's the way we brought up, it is so. We're not usually very extrovert like the locals, where they can just talk out and express themselves. So what would be your suggestion, or what do you suggest to them to do to overcome that introvert? Because they just all to themselves and they don't dare to reach out to new people. So what would you say to these people?
Well, there's two options. You can either connect one-on-one, which can be quite daunting, or you can try and connect in a group of people. So if there's a group there, try and connect with that group. So you're not relied to be talking all the time. So you can actually just come into that conversation a little bit slower and show some interest and then ask the odd question as well to gain some clarity. And that's probably a less intimidating way to start.
Because it was definitely not an easy thing for many students or many graduates. It's a really daunting place. So probably one or two question is, so in terms of places to find jobs, of course, a lot of them, they go to Seek and Indeed and all that, Zora. Do you think that is a good place to find jobs, or do you suggest any other websites as well, or those are the holy of jobs?
Look, it's a good place to start. There's more than one place to look though. As you said, you've got Seek. We've got a jobs board for our members as well for graduate positions and early career engineering positions.
Oh wow!
So that's a benefit for our members as well. So we've partnered with Grad Australia to provide that job board. So another place is LinkedIn. A lot of jobs are advertised through LinkedIn, whether it be somebody personally saying, such and such is hiring, they're looking for an electrical engineer or a civil engineer or a structural, or the actual LinkedIn specific job listings.
Yeah.
We've got our employment agencies in Hobart, so Searson Buck and Hayes Recruiting work quite a bit in the engineering space.
And it does apply for graduates as well?
Yeah, all levels of roles.
Great. Yeah, because I mean, some of them, some of my students, they use sick quite often, and like most of the time they hardly hear anything back from the employers. And I think one of the problem is, do you think, because I heard of this thing called ATS, I think it's called applicant tracking system, something like they will filter your CV before that even goes to the employer?
Generally, yes, they do have these things built into their system where they can look for keywords that come out, and if those keywords aren't there, they look at it and go, okay, that CV's not for me. But on the point of CVs and application letters, my suggestion is to get somebody else to have a look at it. Don't just write it yourself and put it in. Get somebody else to have a look over it and say, put yourself into the recruiter's shoes. What would you say if you got this? How would you look at this application?
Yes.
And tailor it to the job you're applying for. Show that you've done some research and that you've put a little bit of effort into it.
Because I think a lot of people, they send email by mass to application by mass to different employers, and that doesn't work at all, isn't it?
And look, locally you can find people that will look at your cover letters and will look at your resume or your CV for a cost, mind you, but I would still recommend it as somebody that does it for a living and does it on a day-by-day basis, to have a look at what you're doing and might be able to shape it a little bit better for you, just to help get you past that first hurdle. Yeah.
And which probably bring me to the last two here is, I heard a saying, I'm not sure if it's right, but it sounds like this, 80% of all the jobs are actually not online. Most of the jobs are through word of mouth and networking. Is that true to the engineering as well?
Definitely in engineering. Engineering is part of what they call the hidden job market. Most engineers will probably apply for their first role and then won't need to apply for another role because it's all through networks and word of mouth. Yeah.
So the first are always the hardest, isn't it?
The first one's always the hardest to get. So once you do that and you prove yourself, because Tasmania is a small place.
Yes.
Everybody has worked with everybody at one stage or another on projects. So you get an opportunity to show what you can do, and people see that, and invariably you get tapped on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I've got an opportunity coming up here. Are you interested?" And I've even seen that happen at events here before, where conversations have been had sitting around the bench over there, and somebody will say, "Hey, I've got this big project coming up. I think it'd be great. Why don't you come and have a chat to me?"